I told them to go outside because I didn't want to hear the fighting anymore. That's the part I don't say out loud. It was July, thick air, cicadas loud enough to feel in your teeth. Our house sits in an older neighborhood outside Richmond, Virginia. Brick colonials from the 1950s, big yards, chain link fences, people who have lived there 30 years and don't change. My son Caleb is 10, his sister Mara is 8. They were arguing over the Xbox. Again. I had a deadline. I snapped. Take a shovel, I said. Go dig a hole or something. Just get out. Caleb said, Where? Back corner, I said, by the old oak. I don't care. Just go. I watched them through the kitchen window for a minute. They dragged the flat green spade across the grass. The oak drops acorns the size of marbles. The ground back there is uneven, soft from years of leaves. At first, it was normal. Dirt, roots, complaints. A few minutes later, Caleb yelled, Dad? Not scared, just confused. I stepped onto the deck. What? We found something, he said. It was a bone. Not small, not a chicken bone. It was a long, pale, smooth at one end bone, the other end jagged, like it had snapped. Mara said, Is that a leg? Of what? Caleb said. I climbed down and took it from them. It was heavy, dense. I've grilled enough ribs to know what animal bones look like. This was thicker. It's probably from a deer, I said. We don't have deer, Mara said. Well, we do technically. I've seen them at dusk near the creek. Still, the bone didn't look old enough to have been buried for decades. It wasn't brittle. It wasn't stained deep brown. It looked placed. Caleb said it was only like a foot down. I told them to wash their hands. I wrapped the bone in a trash bag and set it by the shed. That night, I lay in bed and thought about the depth. A foot isn't deep. A foot is intentional. 2 days later, they were back out there. I didn't send them this time. They wanted to keep digging. Maybe there's treasure, Mara said. Or a whole skeleton, Caleb said. Don't say that, she said. I was at the kitchen table, answering emails with the door open. I could hear the shovel hit something solid. A clang. Not root, not a rock. Caleb yelled again, sharper now. Dad, you need to come. The hole was wider, maybe 3 feet across. They'd gone deeper this time. Caleb was kneeling inside it, dirt up to his shins. There was a wood. Old wood. Dark, the edge of something flat and rectangular. It's a box, Mara said. Don't touch it, I said. But of course they already had. We cleared more dirt. It wasn't a box. It was a door or a lid. About 2 feet by 3, hinged on one side, metal rusted but intact. No handle on top. I felt something drop in my stomach. Caleb said, Is this a bunker? We don't have basements here, just crawl spaces. I brushed the dirt away from the seam. There was a padlock on the side, newer than the wood, the metal still silver under the dirt. Someone had locked this recently. Back up, I said. Are we opening it? Caleb asked. No, I said, too quickly. We stood there staring at it. The oak branches creaked above us. A car passed on the street. Mara said quietly, What if someone's in there? That sentence did something to me. I told them to go inside. They didn't argue. I took pictures with my phone. Close-ups of the lock, the hinges, the wood grain. I didn't open it. I didn't call the police yet either. Not yet. Instead, I walked the fence line. Our backyard backs against the Halperns. Retired, no kids. They keep their grass cut tight. I looked for disturbed soil, footprints. There was nothing obvious. That night around 11:30, I was taking the trash out. I heard movement by the oak. Not digging, just the sound of someone stepping on leaves or acorns. I froze. The motion light flicked on. Empty yard. But the gate at the side of the house was open. I am careful about that gate, always. I closed it. I told myself it was the wind. I did not sleep well. The next morning, the padlock was gone. The lid was still there, slightly shifted. I stood at the edge of the hole and stared down at it. Caleb said behind me, "Did you open it?" "No," I said. "Well, it's open now," he replied. He was right. The lid was cracked maybe an inch, enough to show darkness underneath. I crouched and lifted the rest of the way, and it opened. There was no bunker, no tunnel. It was shallow, maybe 2 feet deep, just a cavity in the ground lined with old plywood. Inside were objects, arranged. A child's sneaker, dirty but intact, pink laces, a small spiral notebook soaked and dried, its pages warped, and another bone. This one smaller. I felt heat rise on my neck. Mara whispered, "Those aren't ours." "No," I said, "they're not." I reached down and picked up the notebook. The cover had a cartoon cat on it. Inside, most pages were blank. On 3 pages, there were names, first names only, written in pencil, pressed hard. Caleb, Mara, and mine. I dropped it. For a second, I genuinely thought this was a prank. Older kids, someone trying to scare us. Then I looked at the sneaker again. It was small, maybe size 1, mud packed into the sole, not from our yard. Mara said, "Why is my name there?" I didn't answer. That was when I called the police. 2 officers came, young, polite. They looked at the hole, the objects, the notebook. One of them said, "Kids do weird stuff." "With my kids' names?" I responded. "Maybe they heard you call them," he said. "Backyards are open." He bagged the bone, and the sneaker, and the notebook. "Any missing children reports?" I asked. He hesitated. Nothing recent in this area." They filled out a form on the hood of their car, gave me a case number, and they left. And Caleb asked, "Are we in trouble?" "No," I said. But I was thinking about the padlock. Someone came into our yard at night, quiet, confident. I went to the public library the next afternoon. I don't know why. I think I wanted history or something tidy. At the reference desk, I asked, "Has the neighborhood ever had issues?" The librarian looked at me over her glasses. "Define issues." Missing kids, maybe? Crimes? Anything like that?" I responded. She pulled up old newspaper archives. We sat together scrolling through black and white scans from the 1970s. There had been a case, 2 blocks over, 1983. A 12-year-old girl disappeared after playing in her yard. She was never found. I felt my throat tighten. The article mentioned community searches, canvassing, nothing about suspects. I drove home and parked slowly, scanning the street. Miss Halpern was on her porch. She called out, "Everything okay with the police yesterday?" I walked over. "Did you see anyone in our yard?" I asked. She shook her head. "But I did see some teenagers cutting through 2 nights ago, hoodies, running." "From where?" I asked. She gestured vaguely toward the street. I couldn't tell. That night, I set up a camera facing the oak, motion activated. At 2:17 a.m., it recorded someone. A figure in dark clothes, face covered. They stepped into the hole, looked down, then directly at the camera. They didn't run. They walked to the shed, stood there for a full 30 seconds, then left through the gate. The next morning, I found the hole filled in, perfectly leveled, as if it had never been dug. I showed the footage to the police. The older officer this time said, "Probably kids. You've got that big oak. It's a landmark." "They filled the hole," I said. He shrugged. "Maybe they're embarrassed." I asked if other houses reported similar things. He paused. "There have been a few calls, items buried, old toys, animal remains. We chalked it up to kids messing around." "Which kids?" I asked. He didn't answer. I knocked on 3 doors that afternoon. On Maple Drive, 2 streets over, a man named Greg told me they'd found a jar of teeth in their flower bed last fall. Figured it was Halloween stuff, he said, but yeah, it was weird. Another woman said they'd found a doll wrapped in plastic near their fence. She assumed neighborhood teenagers. No one had names, just sightings. Kids running, hoodies, late at night. That evening, Caleb asked, "Can we still play outside?" I looked at the oak, at the ground that had been smoothed over. "Yes," I said, but I stayed out there with them. Every sound felt closer. Every car that slowed made me stand. A week passed, nothing. Then I received an email from an unknown address. The subject line just said safe. Inside was one sentence: "You weren't supposed to open it." No attachment, no signatures. I showed the police. They traced it to a public Wi Fi hotspot downtown. Nothing usable. Caleb stopped digging. Mara stopped asking questions. I filled the corner with gravel, laid pavers, built a small raised bed, something solid. Neighbors started talking more. A few found more things: old baseball caps, broken watches, bones. The police held a community meeting. They said it was likely a group of teens creating a scavenger game, maybe dares, burying objects, watching reactions. People nodded. It made sense. It was explainable. But no one ever admitted to it. No teenager bragged. No video surfaced. No one was caught on more than one camera. What stays with me isn't the bone or the notebook. It's the way the figure looked at the camera. Not surprised, not rushed, but measured. As if we had interrupted something organized. Sometimes I stand at the kitchen window and watch the oak move in the wind. The yard looks normal. Grass trimmed, gravel neat. The home is supposed to feel safe. But we learned that safety can be something someone else tests, just to see if you notice.